An 87-year-old man's heart stopped while he was wired to an EEG. Nobody planned that. And as his brain went quiet, one rhythm got stronger. Gamma. The rhythm of remembering. That should not happen. From the moment a heart stops, the first changes show up in about 10 seconds, and the surface signal is flat inside 20. 20 seconds, and the trace goes silent. For most of the last century, we assumed the silence went all the way down. His recording says otherwise. 15 minutes of a human brain going out, and inside it, something rising instead of falling. So we have the needle. We do not have the audio. And that gap is the whole problem with this subject. The one person who could tell us what that gamma was is the one person who is never coming to the interview. Hey, I'm Eric. Start with the part everybody gets wrong. Death is not a moment. We write it on a certificate as a single time, and that line is bookkeeping, not biology. In 2023, a team led by Sam Parnia at NYU Langone published the largest study of its kind in the journal Resuscitation. 567 people whose hearts stopped in hospital. 85 of them had their brains monitored straight through the resuscitation. In some of those patients, brainwave patterns we linked to consciousness, delta, theta, alpha, surfaced as late as 35 to 60 minutes into CPR. Close to 40% showed activity climbing back toward normal at some point during the attempt. An hour after the heart stopped, not gone, suppressed and flickering. 28 survivors were well enough to be interviewed afterwards. 6 of them described the same strange thing: lucid, calm, separate from their own body, watching without pain. 6 out of 28 proves nothing about the universe. But 50 years ago, this was a campfire story. Now it arrives with an EEG trace attached to it. So if death isn't a moment, what is it? There is an order to it, and it is more violent than fading suggests. In 2018, Jens Dreier at Charité in Berlin, working with the University of Cincinnati, published in the Annals of Neurology. His team monitored the cortex directly in patients with catastrophic brain injuries whose families had chosen comfort care, and caught the electrical events of dying in sequence. Circulation stops. Within 20 to 40 seconds, the cortex shuts down its own signaling. That is not damage. That is a decision. It goes quiet to protect what it has left. Then, for minutes, the neurons sit there holding their internal chemistry together on stored reserves. Silent. Intact. And this is the part I keep turning over. Still fully recoverable. Restore circulation inside that window and they come back. Then the reserves run out, and the brain spends everything at once. Dreier's team called it terminal spreading depolarization. Charité described it as a giant wave, a mass release of electrochemical energy rolling out across the cortex, and behind it, the cascades that slowly poison the cells. That wave is the actual line, not the heartbeat, not the flat trace. Before it, neurons are waiting. After it, they are being taken apart. Your brain doesn't switch off. It runs out of savings, spends the lot in one wave, and only then begins to come apart, which is where 4 patients in Michigan come in. Also 2023, the University of Michigan Jimmo Borjagin's lab in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, 4 people who died on EEG after their families agreed to withdraw ventilator support. 2 of the 4 did something noise cannot do. As the oxygen fell, gamma didn't just spike, it organized. It synchronized across the brain, front to back, side to side, and held for minutes. Coordination costs energy, and this was a brain running out of it. And it concentrated in one place, the junction where the temporal, parietal, and occipital lobes meet. Which matters because we already know what that patch does. In 2002, Olaf Blanke and colleagues reported a case in Nature. A patient with electrodes implanted for clinical reasons. Stimulate the temporoparietal junction, and the patient reported being outside their own body. Reliably, on demand. That region is where your brain works out where you stop, and the room starts. Interfere with it, and your edges come loose. So, the region that builds your sense of being a body in a place surges, organized, in the minutes around death. And separately, for decades, survivors have described leaving their bodies. Two ends of a bridge built by people who were not looking for each other. That is not proof, but you can see both ends from here. And the cells themselves last far longer than any of it. In 2019, Ninad Sestan's team at Yale published in Nature. 32 pig brains from a food plant, left 4 hours, then perfused with a fluid they called Brain X. Circulation came back in the small vessels. Cell death slowed. Individual neurons started firing again. Metabolism restarted. The fine structure that should have collapsed was still standing. And nothing organized. No activity of the kind that carries awareness. The team's own phrasing was careful, and it is worth hearing exactly. Clinically defined, this is not a living brain, but it is a cellularly active brain, which reframes the whole thing. What dies in 20 seconds isn't the parts, it's the pattern. The newest piece isn't finished, and I'm telling you about it anyway. In April this year, Charlotte Martial at the University of Liège described a study she has not published. 2 years following patients through a resuscitation room. 180 of them. 12 reported a near-death experience. The recordings from those 12 did not look like shutdown. Their brain activity was more complex than a normal waking brain. More complex than a brain on psychedelics. The opposite of a coma. The opposite of dreaming. If that holds up, it is the most interesting measurement anyone has taken of dying. If it doesn't, it disappears. Her own words are that it isn't published yet. And I would rather hand you an unfinished thing, honestly, than a finished one that isn't true. Now the part the copies leave out. Go back to the 87-year-old. The scientists who published him listed 6 reasons to distrust their own finding. Brain injury, anticonvulsants, sedatives, blood chemistry off, hours of seizures, and no recording of his brain while it was healthy. So there is no baseline to measure any of it against. One patient. Nothing normal to compare him to. Borjagin's 4. 2 surged. The other 2 showed nothing at all. If you only ever hear about the 2, you are being sold something. And the deepest problem isn't sample size. Activity is not experience. Gamma in the body location region tells you that region is busy. It does not tell you anyone is home. Every patient in those recordings died. Nobody woke up to say what the gamma was. There is a plainer reading, and serious people hold it. A brain starved of oxygen dumps everything it has in one uncontrolled discharge. Not a life review. The sound of the machine breaking. Both readings fit the same data. So that is where we stand. 20 seconds to a flat trace, 20 to 40 for a deliberate shutdown. Minutes of silent, salvageable neurons. In perhaps half of us, an organized surge in the exact place that builds the feeling of being somewhere. Then the wave. Then hours of cells that are alive and running nothing at all. And a black box we cannot play. We pulled the recorder out of the wreck. We can watch the needles jump. And the only passenger cannot be interviewed. Somebody is trying to fix that. There's a study registered to start this September, 20 patients. Faster sensors. A plan to archive whatever it catches. 20 patients. It may find nothing, but the lights don't go out. For a few minutes, the switchboard lights up, and we are standing outside the room reading the meter. And that's the weird part. I'm Eric. Stay curious. Synaptic. One strange thing about your body every week. Subscribe and you'll catch the next one.